Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, it is the middle of winter and we have a few around the yard winter maintenance projects to get done. So right here, we have one of the backyard flower beds that has, in the spring, summer through fall, one of the most beautiful flowers. I hate that I cannot tell you exactly what they're called. I can only describe them as a really beautiful ground cover that, imagine these that stand anywhere from 1.5 feet to over 2.5 feet tall. They are a ground cover and yet they stand tall. They have really beautiful little purple flowers that attract bees, that attract butterflies. And in this flower bed, during the summer, spring, they enjoy a lot of sun and they enjoy a lot of water. And these, if you let them get wild, they can spread into your lawn. So battling these back and having these contained in the flower bed sometimes is a full-time job. So now in the winter, they go dormant, but because we are doing some around the yard winter maintenance projects, I went and I grabbed I couldn't find my rake, so I grabbed a hoe and my gloves, and I was raking up the dead top layer, and I discovered a whole bunch of the flowers that are still green that were insulated under this big dead layer. So I think I'm going to use I couldn't find my garden shears, so we're just going to kind of clip these and these are really green. So I wanted to also take you guys on a little backyard tour. So starting over here in the backyard, we have our first flower bed. We have a rosemary. This rosemary, however, for whatever reason, doesn't seem to do so well. And I say that because we have another rosemary. This one has got to be between 3.5 and 4 feet tall, over 4.5 feet wide. This rosemary does so good. Every now and then has the most beautiful little blossoms. So it's a real mystery to me why this one is just abundant, flourishing, while this guy is perpetually small. I have clipped it back and pruned this guy many times in many ways, and this one seems to stay dwarf, stunted, and really unhappy. And I really can't figure out why. Also, so continuing through the flower bed, as you can see, so the first flowers, they love to spread. Like I said, they make an excellent ground cover. They spread like weeds. You have to make sure they don't get into your lawn. And over here we have an oleander. So we have 3 oleanders, excuse me, 3 or 4. We have 4 oleanders. We originally had 5. One of our oleanders did not make it through the winter. So I would say that our oleanders are between 3 and 4 years old. And once they survived the first winter, these have been doing really, really well. And we clip them back late fall, and come springtime they get little shoots, and this will be over 4.5 to 5.5 feet tall. And ours have a fuchsia pink, bright fuchsia pink flowers, blossoms. They're gorgeous. So if you have oleander, the one recommendation one tip I have for you right here now is to make sure your oleander has between 2.5 to 3 feet of space. And I say this because coming over to our second oleander, this guy is squished between a rose bush and our abundant rosemary bush. Oh, if you hear a funny noise, this little guy, Ribby, his little tags tinkle and jingle and make a cute little noise. So if you guys hear a little jingle in the background, I apologize. That's just my little dog. Anyway, back to the oleander. So this oleander sits squished between our rose bush and our rosemary, and I do a fairly regular job of having to prune our rosemary back. This one, however, like I said, this one is abundant. It is just flourishing. This one does so well. If anything, I wish it would grow a little more to the east, because over here we're a little more crowded and pressed for space. But I just prune it back and stay on top of that. However, I now wish that we had not planted this one here. It clearly does not have enough space, but between regularly pruning, we do manage to get by with this guy. But I would suggest make sure your oleander has plenty of room, that it's not crowded over in any way. Otherwise, he'll struggle where the others with ample amount of room flourish and do really well. So here are the final two oleanders. These have more than a sufficient amount of space. If anything, this little guy can sometimes be somewhat crowded by the rose bush, but between these two, they have plenty of space. And like I said, I do regularly try to always prune back our rose bush and the rosemary and keep things looking better. However, I have not pruned this winter at all. Things are looking wild. So, like I said, today is all about winter around the yard maintenance. And, oh, I was heading over to look for a pair of gloves. Also, you guys, I'm not entirely sure if I mentioned, but we have a Bermuda blend lawn that we really enjoy. However, in the winter time, I'm constantly battling crabgrass, nutsage, whatever this wretched weed is. We also have clover. However, I don't mind clover. I actually really like it. Hey, buddy. Oh, the dandelions. So nutsage, and the dandelions. My number one enemy. I cannot get rid of these guys. So, crabgrass, dandelions, nutsage, and that other unidentified weed that I cannot stand. Also, sorry about the wind. It's actually somewhat a kind of windy day, and then the wind subsides. But in the lawn, I have tried battling the weeds using a homemade dish soap, vinegar, and water solution. And between you and I think it was just a waste of dish soap and vinegar and water. So coming over to the backyard garden, you guys, I'm so excited to tell you that in spite of winter coming on, and this year in southeast New Mexico, winter hasn't been entirely harsh. We have gotten about two different times when it snowed. However, the more significant snow, it was barely, not even an inch of snow, and that lingered for only about a day. But the mustard spinach, the lettuce, the kale, the arugula, and the Swiss chard has all pulled through, as well as over here I have some radishes, some more mustard spinach, and in my little containers we have spinach. This needs to go. I don't have the heart to pull it because every here and there I do see some greenery. However, we are going to do something about this. That's going to be a separate video. I am going to water all of this today. Over here we have parsley and dill, arugula, lettuce, no, excuse me. So, no, lettuce, spinach, and we need to do something about all of this. I regularly water, but this is, oh, I don't know if I mentioned you guys, but this is my first year gardening. And so there has been a lot of trial and error, and I mean a lot of trial and error, you guys. For example, my kale, another example of terrible overcrowding. That was a horrible oversight or undersight on my part. I didn't realize that the mustard spinach and arugula would grow so abundantly, and that left my kale entirely overgrown. I should not have planted this between these two, but I hadn't. When I first planted it, I thought everything had more than enough room. Each row had more than 8 inches of space, so the arugula and mustard spinach overgrew very quickly, and the kale is barely lingering right through here. And so next year, or come spring, that is lesson number 1 I learned, to really research how much space things really need. I don't know if I mentioned, but over here I have the Swiss chard, and I had planted this Swiss chard after this section of the garden was planted, and over here I learned my lesson with the kale, and I gave this an ample amount of space from the beans and from everything else. And this little bundle of Swiss chard has done remarkably well. But between you and I, the tragedy of the Swiss chard, I have not been able to find recipes to incorporate my Swiss chard, and I hate to say that it goes to waste, but I cannot find a recipe, a dish, that this Swiss chard is remotely the star of the show. And in fact, if I make a salad, this will maybe make a somewhat guest appearance. If anything, it's more like a little extra in the crowd. Whereas the lettuce, arugula, kale, and mustard spinach are usually the stars. And maybe I'll sprinkle in, tear up 1 leaf, because the Swiss chard has a taste that our household does not appreciate at all. And also, come next year when I'm planting, I think I'm going to purchase a different fertilizer soil mix. That is the Miracle-Gro potting mix. It works great for geraniums, for marigolds, for all the flowers, arvinca, portulaca, sunflowers. That Miracle-Gro potting mix, it does a beautiful job with the flowers I like. However, I don't think I want to incorporate that into my garden for foods that we're going to eat. So that was another oversight on my part. So that sits waiting for spring to fill up our barrels for our flowers. But I decided not to use that in the garden. So again, over here, we're heading towards the front yard. Hey, Rigby. Rigby. Hey, little buddy. So over here we have this flower bed, and all of this is the ground cover I was talking about, where it goes dormant. Anything left above ground, I guess, literally just dies and looks horrible. So we're going to clear all this out. Over here, this stays green all year, just like the rosemary. Again, I hate that I don't know what these are called apart from what we call them, but I call this the Mexican fountain grass, because this is like a fountain, and it reminds me of any kind of desert grass, but it is beautiful. It is soft, and I absolutely love this. And we actually planted this somewhat so it wasn't level with the ground, so that it would look like a beautiful fountain. We enjoy this each and every day. And actually, if I see this at Lowe's, I'm going to purchase a few more because they make an excellent centerpiece, showpiece in any flower bed. But I also want to show you, these are so beautiful. Our neighbors also enjoy them. And our neighbors have a row of about, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 7 different plants. Over here, again, towards the front, we have one of my favorite types of ground cover. This stays green all year, summer, spring, and every now and then I splash these with the hose, give it some water, but these are awesome. Every now and then, I believe these will have a little purple flower, or maybe that's a different type, but these make an excellent ground cover, and these will stay green all year. So you guys, the wind is really picking up, and the weather is somewhat starting to turn. I think it may just rain. So I'm gonna get this wrapped up. I'm gonna grab my gloves, and we are going to see if we can transform the flower bed and at least get it somewhat springtime prepped. Okay guys, so after getting everything cleared away, raked up, although I couldn't find the rake, which is very strange. It should always be in the shed. It wasn't. So somehow blundering through life and getting everything raked up, tidied up, I watered down the rosemary. I think I'm going to give it a little bit more water. I also gave all of our container veggies a good watering, as well as the full-blown in-ground backyard garden a good little watering. I'm amazed that this little lettuce has kind of pulled through. It stays very small, and I don't know if that's because I need to supplement with nutrients of some sort. Like I said, this is my first year gardening, and everything has been very trial and error. I'm kind of clearing things away. I'm not entirely sure if that's a baby mustard spinach. It doesn't appear to be. I remember these guys when they were little, and they did not look like this, but I don't want to pull anything good up, so I'll just leave that for the moment. But anyway guys, thank you for joining me and hanging out. And I'm a little upset that the weather, which was beautiful and sunny and just somewhat a light breeze, has kind of kicked up to really, really heavy clouds and an awful wind that even blew a giant tumbleweed right into my little dog. Poor guy. So anyway guys, thank you for joining me. Like, subscribe, comment if you please, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye guys, have a beautiful rest of your day.